G'day, I'm Jess and welcome to the Etsy Basics series where I teach you all the basics to get your Etsy shop up and running. And today we're talking about Etsy fees. A lot of people get very confused when it comes to Etsy fees because there's a lot going on there. It's not simple and straightforward. And so today I'm actually going to take you through all of the Etsy fees step by step. We're going to discuss them and I'm going to give you a bit of a rule of thumb to use when it comes to calculating your Etsy fees. Now, I hate to break it to you, but there is no one answer. Everybody in different countries is going to have a different set of fees because there are different fees for different countries and different circumstances and different sales volumes and so on and so forth. So I'm going to try to demystify that a little bit today by going through all the different fees. But at the end of the day, you're actually going to have to go through all of these steps and calculate your fees yourself if you want to get an exact number of what you're going to be charged by Etsy. But let's have a look at what we've got in front of us. Okay, so here is Etsy's fees and payment policy. I will just say I'm recording this on the 5th of March, 2024. Etsy is just about to introduce a new fee, which they do have in here now and I will discuss, but as I record this, if it's in the future, they may have changed things. So the best thing to do is to come and look at this document. I'll put a link to it below, but let's discuss it and go through it together. And I'll try to demystify some of this. And like I said, at the end of the video, I'm going to give you a quick ballpark rule of thumb that you can use when it comes to calculating your fees. Before we do go through this, I just want to dispel a myth that I hear all the time, and that is that Etsy fees are ridiculous. They're too expensive. That is not true. Basically, it costs money to run a business. You know, I think we're so used to this whole everything should be free mentality that if it costs us a little bit of money to run our business, then we suddenly get all upset. Now, if you're running your own business and you want to sell online, you have to have a presence. Okay. You have to have a website. You have to have a page somewhere where you're selling your stuff. Now, there are ways, I guess, to do this for free. I mean, if you have an Instagram account or a Facebook account, you can just sell on your page or whatever, you know, by simply putting stuff up there and people can click on it, say sold and then pay you. But you still have to use a payment processor and that's going to cost you money to do if you use PayPal. There's no way around this costing you some amount of money. Now, the benefits of Etsy, for example, as a venue platform, what you're paying for is all of the traffic they're going to bring you. That's really what you're paying for. You're paying for the traffic they're going to bring you and you're paying for the platform itself and how it works and how simple and easy it is to get set up. If you want to have your own website, that's going to cost you a lot of money. Shopify is a good example. It costs you quite a bit every month to have a Shopify site. If you have your own standalone website, you have to pay for your domain name, you have to pay for hosting, you have to pay for security, you have to pay for backups, all stuff that you might not have thought about. So just keep that in mind when we're talking about fees anywhere. Keep in mind that, you know, think about what you're paying for when you're assessing fees. What are you getting in return for those fees? Okay, let's get on with it. So here we have the basic fees and we're going to go through these, okay? All these fees are exclusive of any VAT, value added tax or similar taxes. For example, here in Australia, we have GST. Okay, so it doesn't include any of that. That being said as well, if you are in a country outside of the US and your country has a VAT or a GST or something like that, you're going to have to collect that and they don't process that for you. So you're going to have to do that manually. So that is something to remember as well. So the first fee is a setup fee. This is a very new fee. As far as I know, as I record this, they haven't actually implemented this yet, but they're planning on implementing it. So they've got it in here. And that is $15 US to actually open your shop. Okay. So they will charge this as part of the shop opening progress if this is applicable to you. They don't say who it's applicable to and who it's not applicable to. So it might be depending on the country you're in. It might be depending on whether you have an Etsy shop already or something like that. We don't know. They haven't explained it at this point in time. So just be aware that that is something that might apply to you. So that's number one. The second one is your listing fees. Okay, so it costs you 20 US cents in order to list something on the platform. And this is going to be converted into your local currency. So whatever that happens to be is what you're going to be charged. Now, just a note on currency. We're going to come back to this later, but you can sell on Etsy in any currency you like. So I currently sell in Australian dollars. So that means that all of these fees that they list on this page, to work out how much it's going to cost me, if it's an actual number, I have to convert it into Australian dollars to do that. So the website I use for this is xe.com. And if you head over there, it's really, really easy. In fact, I'll show you right now what it looks like. And sorry about that keyboard noise. So you can just pop it in here and it will choose your currency and it will convert it for you at this current conversion rate. Of course, that's always changing. So that's another thing to keep in mind. All right. There's also currency conversion fees, but we'll get to them later. All right. So listing fee for everything you list, it'll cost you 20 US cents to do that. Now, if you have them set up to auto renew, okay, Etsy will automatically renew them after 4 months and it will cost you another 20 US cents to renew those listings. You can have this switched on or you can have it set to manual renewals where you have to do this by yourself. Okay, so the next one, so that's 1 fee, 2, 3, this is number 3. Your transaction fees, okay, is 6.5% of the price you display for each listing plus the amount you charge for delivery and gift wrapping. So put all those things together, what you charge for shipping and what you charge for gift wrapping, add that up. And then 6.5% of that is the fee you will pay Etsy as a transaction fee. So the reason they do it this way, back in the day, they used to only charge this on your listing fee, but then a lot of people were charging heaps for shipping, not much for their listing as a fee avoidance strategy. So they've changed it so that it is all of the things now to stop that from happening. So that's why you pay a transaction fee on your shipping, to stop people doing fee avoidance. So that is kind of the main fee, I guess you could say, for each transaction. The biggest part of your fee for each transaction will be this 6.5% transaction fee. Okay, so now let's talk about your advertising fees. Now, this is where things start to get a little bit more complicated. Okay, everything else was pretty straightforward. Those fees are what you're going to get charged. This is variable. So there's 2 types of ads on Etsy. There's your Etsy ads and your offsite ads. I'm just going to maximize this for a sec. So your Etsy ads are the ones on the platform. Okay. So they're the ones that you can choose to do or choose not to do. And this is where if you go in Etsy search, you'll see little things that have ad written under them on Etsy itself. Those are Etsy ads. You're paying to advertise on the Etsy platform. Offsite ads are ads that are elsewhere on the internet that bring people to Etsy. Now there's 2 things going on with offsite ads. If you, in the last 365 days, have earned under 10,000 US dollars, you can decide to opt in or out of these offsite ads. If you've earned more than that, they opt you in automatically and there's no way out of it. Okay, so let's look at the details of that. Okay, so by the way, with Etsy ads, I think the minimum bid is like $1, like the amount you can have per day. I think the minimum is $1 and you can go up a lot more than that. Offsite ads, okay, here we go. So it's 15% on attributed orders unless you have the 12% fee. Now, it's 15% if you earn under that 10,000 USD amount. So you can opt in or out at this stage. Once you hit over that amount, you are opted in and you're opted in forever, even if you drop below that amount in the future. And if that happens, your fee is then 12% because you can't opt out and they will charge 12% fee if someone clicks on your item being advertised somewhere else, like on Facebook, Pinterest, Google Ads, wherever it might be. Your item, someone clicks on it, they come through to Etsy and they purchase from you. So they use cookies, you know, to keep track of this. It's like a 30-day cookie or something like that. They do explain that on here. So that's why you pay that fee. So offsite ads can be great in that they're advertising your products for you in other places and you only pay if someone actually purchases from you. Frankly, this is like the best possible scenario when it comes to paying for advertising. There's nowhere else I can think of that you only pay for the advertising if somebody actually purchases your product. Everywhere else, it's like you just pay for it and hope it works, right? So while I'm not a big fan of the you can't opt out part of this equation, I do think it's a good program overall. And even if I was earning less, sorry, even if I was under the 10,000 threshold, which I'm not and haven't been for a long time, if I was under that threshold, I would still opt in for that reason. And of course, you only pay that fee on the items that they purchase after coming to your shop from the ad. Okay, the next one, again, is an optional one, and that is subscription fees. So there's a subscription called Etsy Plus. If you want it, it's $10 USD per month, and they explain here, it gives you like some listing credits, some ad credits, and stuff like that. So this is an optional one. Whether you want to opt in or not is up to you. You can look into this in more detail if you want to opt into that. The next one is in-person selling fees. So you can actually link Square, a Square reader, to your Etsy shop to, sell in person. And if you do that, if you sync your Square with your Etsy shop, what will happen is if somebody buys at a market, it'll automatically take it out of your Etsy shop. So if you make one-of-a-kind items, this might be something that you like the idea of, because it means that you're not going to accidentally sell something twice in two different places, okay? So if they are synced, you get charged the same, 20-cent renewal fee if that item renews. Obviously, if it's one of a kind, it's not going to renew. And non-synced listings will be charged a 20-cent USD transaction fee, which will appear in your payment as a Square manual fee. All right. So in-person sales processed with the Square reader will not be subject to the 6.5% transaction fee or any Etsy payment processing fees. They're subject to the Square payment processing fees. But if you have a Square and it's linked to your Etsy, you need to know about this information. Okay, so the next one is your payment processing fees. Now, this varies. It varies by location, okay? So payment processing fees vary on the location of your bank account. So if you want to look at this, you can go over here to the Etsy payments policy and you can have a look at payment processing fees. And here we go. Here is the information for every country as to what the payment processing fees are. So most of you are probably in the United States. So here we go, 3% plus 25 cents for every sale that you make. Okay, so if we go back and add that to your transaction fee, which is 6.5%, then you've got 6, 7, 8, 9.5% plus the 25 cent here plus your 20-cent listing fee. So that gives you a bit of an idea of how much your base fees are going to be. Obviously, it varies. Look, Thailand, it's 6%. And it seems to be kind of 4 or 5, 3, 4, 5, depending on the country. My country, it is different depending on where you're selling to. So here I pay 3% on domestic orders and 4% on international orders. Same with Canada. So this is why I'm saying there's not one size fits all for everybody. You have to figure it out for yourself depending on where you are. All right. So let's go back. So that's your payment processing fee. The next one is delivery fees. So this is where if you're in a certain country, I think the US definitely, I don't know about what other countries have this, is that you can actually pay for your shipping literally through the Etsy platform itself. And that's going to obviously vary on weight and location and all that stuff. So I'm not going to go into that. You can look at the delivery policy if this is something that's relevant to you and work out how much that's going to cost. But that's your shipping fee, okay? The next one is the regulatory operating fee. This is only applicable in a couple of countries, so I'm just going to quickly mention them. So we've got Spain, Turkey, India, Vietnam, United Kingdom, France, Italy. Yeah. So these are, and they say this here, why do they have this? Etsy introduced a regulatory operating fee after the cost of doing business in many countries increased with new regulations in those countries. So if you are in one of these countries, here is information about the extra fee you have to pay for regulatory operation. Now let's talk briefly Pattern. Pattern is another kind of subscription option that Etsy have. They have the base version, they have Etsy Plus, and then they have Pattern. Pattern allows you to basically create a personalized website. So your website, it's still hosted on Etsy, but it looks like a standalone website. All right. So there's a free trial, but if you decide to do this, it costs you $15 a month to run your pattern website. Okay, and they may charge you local taxes on your subscription fee as well. It will automatically renew, and they talk about here about your domain name here. All right, because if you do this, you're going to need your own domain name. So you have to buy that through their people or your own people and use it. And the final one, which I mentioned earlier, was currency conversion. Okay, so this is where, and I used to have to pay this for years because when I started, most of my customers were in the US. So I actually listed and ran my shop in US dollars just to make it so that the prices for US people looked nice and neat, and I could use pricing psychology to work out my prices for them. However, if you do that, if you have your shop set into a different currency to what your bank account is in. So I'm in Australia, so my bank accounts are in Australia. You are charged a 2.5% currency conversion fee on top of everything else. All right. So if you are doing that, this is an important extra bit of a fee that you need to know about, is that currency conversion fee. Now they're going to go through a whole bunch of other information here. I'm not going to go into details on all of that. Okay. But that is the basics. So I'm just going to put on screen here a basic summary of the fundamental fees that you cannot escape. Okay, so these are the fees you absolutely have to pay. And then, of course, there are the other fees that are optional that you may or may not choose to pay, okay, depending on your situation. So if you have a look at that overall, the ballpark figure, I generally say, is about 10%. Okay. And of course, everybody's going to have their own base figure depending on the maths that you've gone through, but ballpark figure, it's approximately 10% of every transaction that you are paying in fees. So I encourage you to work out your own by going through this document and actually pulling out the relevant bits for you in your country and just writing them down and then adding them up and work out how much your fees are going to be. And then work out, the offsite ads element of that. Are you opted in or out of offsite ads? How much is that going to cost you? And of course, with Etsy ads, you're just going to have to take that into account if you decide to run Etsy ads, and keep in mind how much of a cut they're going to take out of your income every month, depending on what your daily Etsy ads fee is. But that's it. I know it's a little bit complex, but if you go through it step by step and work it out, once you've worked it out, you know what it is. And you can use that to calculate prices that will make sure that you can easily afford these Etsy fees. Now, my final closing on this and bringing it back to the Etsy's too expensive. If these fees are too expensive, that means you are not pricing high enough. You're not pricing high enough for the quality of your work and the amount of work that you put into what you create. This is a huge problem in the handmade industry. And if you're watching this, I'm assuming you're a newbie and you're starting out, and I want to help you by encouraging you to not fall into this trap. It's so easy to underprice and to not put what your work is worth on your work, because you're going to see so much stuff out there that's underpriced and you're going to think, how can I possibly compete with that? But if you do a good job and you make a quality product and you reach out to the right people, they will pay what you need them to pay. In most cases, there are some crafts out there. I'm going to use quilting. Detailed quilting is one example where it's very, very difficult to make a living from something like that because of the sheer volume of time it takes to make a product. And when that happens, you need to start thinking about, well, is this something that is actually feasible, that I can make a living out of selling this thing? Or, even if it's not make a living, make any sort of profit out of selling what I am selling. But that's a whole nother video, and we'll get to that another day. In the meantime, if you need a little bit of guidance in help getting your Etsy shop set up, don't miss my free download, the Etsy setup guide. I will leave a link to it below. It's a quick start guide. It's a little checklist that's got every little step that you need to take as you're setting up your shop, so you can just follow along with that and tick it all off and make sure that you're not missing anything important. So go grab a hold of that download right now. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to subscribe for future videos on how to start and grow your Etsy shop. And if you are a newbie and you haven't already seen my other Etsy basics videos. I will leave a link to them right here so you can go and watch those next and see what it is that you need to do to get your shop up and running. Thanks so much for watching. I will catch you again in the next video. Bye for now.